Sources that say that there were not law enforcement officers that were wounded in this shooting. So we're digging in to figure out who was injured. We heard from the Todd Lyons, the acting ICE director, earlier this morning, who said that there could be kind of three different groups of people at this facility at the time of the shooting. It would be employees, it would be visitors, it could also be detainees. So we're waiting to get more information on that. We also know that due to the positioning of this shooter on an adjacent building, the specific area of that government building, that ICE facility that was targeted, was the Sally Port, which is kind of where the intro and outro of detainees happens. So again, that's a very active portion of the building. Could be what Ken Molestina described and J.D. Miles described earlier this morning as a soft target. So we'll be hoping that some of those answers come to us when Dallas police address this latest incident in the next few minutes.
We've been live on the air all morning with this, trying to get the latest developments on this. So while we're still, again, waiting for this press conference to come from DPD, is just moments away, we're still trying to check in with our field crews as well. We actually just got an email from our senior reporter, Steve Pickett, who just said, quote, "There is no heavy police presence of paramedic activity at the ER. Parkland Hospital has media representatives in the parking lot, but again, he's checking all the other entrances as well in the meantime." So again, we've got crews that are stationed at the scene and also stationed at the hospital too as well, where we're being told that some of the victims are being treated.
Okay, let's pull up some of the reaction. Obviously, this scene is local to Dallas, but it has ties both federally and statewide. So let's go ahead and give you a couple of the different informations that we're getting from multiple different sources. So Dallas police saying that on September 24th at about 6:40 this morning, DPD responded to an assist officer call on North Simmons Freeway. That preliminary investigation determining that a suspect opened fire at a government building from an adjacent building. 2 people were transported to the hospital with gunshot wounds. 1 victim died at the scene. The suspect is deceased. They describe it as an ongoing investigation, and we'll be holding a media briefing later today. We now know that should happen in the next few minutes.
So we're just trying to get more information, and hopefully we'll learn that from the press conference. Were these 3 victims the only victims that were injured in this case, or is there more?
Yeah, and also, while we did hear from Steve Pickett that there's not a large emergency response at Parkland Hospital, we do just want to point out this is right near the entire Dallas Medical District. So there is a chance that they maybe were transferred to a different hospital. UT Southwestern Medical Center is in that same vicinity. There's also a couple of other smaller units that they could have been transferred to. So once we get confirmation on what hospital those 2 critically injured people are being treated at, we will certainly bring that to your attention. Meantime, we are hearing from both local, state, and federal officials responding to this shooting. I want to go and pull up a post on X from our Vice President, J.D. Vance, who said, quote, "The obsessive attack on law enforcement, particularly ICE, must stop. I'm praying for everyone hurt in this attack and for their families." That was a post that he actually reposted from Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem. If we can pull up her tweet now, you'll be able to see the details on it. But it not only addressed the incident, but also the potential motive surrounding this. She says, quote, "There was a shooting this morning at the Dallas ICE field office. Details are still emerging, but we can confirm there were multiple injuries and fatalities. The shooter is deceased by a self-inflicted gunshot wound. And while we don't know the motive yet, we know that our ICE law enforcement is facing unprecedented violence against them. It must stop."
And speaking of the number of officials that have spoken out, we do know that acting ICE Director Todd Lyons, he also pretty much echoed the same thing there too as well, just saying that, quote, "This is a sad time that we have to worry about violence against law enforcement and violence being increased against agents and facilities."
I want to point out, okay, so you're seeing that emergency crew activity on the service road. Our Lacey Beasley just texted us saying the reason the press conference is being delayed is due to Dallas Mayor Eric Johnson coming to the scene as well. We have been monitoring X and other social media sites waiting for the mayor to make make a statement on this situation. He so far has not, to our knowledge. So that is, again, he is going to be arriving likely on scene here in the next few moments. We're expecting an address not only from the mayor, but also from DPD. Again, potentially Dallas Police Chief Daniel Como, who was officially sworn in back in April to the job. He is certainly no stranger to law enforcement, 33 years as a veteran with experience specifically in the DEA, the Federal Drug Enforcement Administration, but certainly new-ish to the job as Dallas Police Chief, only on the job for a few months. So this would be one of the largest police responses that he's had to take the helm of.
Yeah, and as you're looking here on the right-hand side of your screen, this is obviously media that is setting up for that press conference that we're expected to start hopefully within minutes away now. This is going to be from DPD. You could see that there's a Dallas police cruiser that's right there in front of the shot as well. So we're seeing a number of crews that are just trying to set up their cameras. You probably saw somebody wiping down their lens and just getting ready to set up microphones and things like that for officials to speak to the media and the press.
Yeah, I just checked, and the last tweet from the office of Mayor Eric Johnson, the Dallas mayor, was in reference to the severe thunderstorms that were moving through our neck of the woods earlier this week. So far his office has been fairly quiet about this specific shooting. But again, just to recap what has happened this morning, there has been a shooting at the Dallas ICE facility. It is a field office, but it also serves as a temporary detention facility for processing and holding, specifically for immigration detainees before being transferred to facilities that are more equipped for long-term holds. This Dallas ICE facility was targeted by what the Todd Lyons, the acting ICE director, says was a sniper. Dallas police say that shooter was positioned on an adjacent building and then targeted the Sallyport area of the government ICE field office. We know that 3 people were shot, 2 of them critically, 1 of them killed on scene, and the shooter themselves also died of a self-inflicted gunshot wound.
And of course, we're still hoping to get a little bit more information on the exact motive from that shooter as well, the suspected shooter as well. Even though they unfortunately deceased from a self-inflicted gunshot wound, investigators, as you can see, have been on scene. We're talking multiple agencies here, local, state, federal, all working this scene to get more information, and obviously also working against the elements too as well this morning.
Yeah, there's been rain that's moved through the area throughout the morning. It's been a little heavier at times, but lighter at times as well. It looks like it's certainly lightened up this morning. You saw Lacey Beasley earlier this morning with her raincoat on. So that was a point that Dr. Alex Del Carmen made earlier this morning. He's a criminology professor at Tarleton State University. When we first talked to him about this scene unfolding in Dallas, he said, man, one of the main concerns for law enforcement right now is going to be preserving evidence, specifically with those storms rolling through. So that is probably what we've been seeing happening in the last 2 hours with Dallas police, as well as local and federal officials trying to preserve as much evidence as they can to hopefully get more answers to the question of what was the motive in this situation.
Yeah, with sources also seeking more information about this shooting, in fact, happening outside the facility with the elements that have moved in. It may sort of put a little bit of a delay on their investigation too, as well as they're trying to comb through the scene for a lot more evidence.
And we know the Dallas Police Department, while they may be taking the lead on the investigation, we also know that ATF and FBI agents are on scene to assist the Dallas Police Department. We also know that reportedly, again, from multiple sources, we are hearing that law enforcement officers were not wounded in this shooting. So again, that would point to the other 3 categories of people that Todd Lyons, the acting ICE director, was talking about, whether it be employees, visitors, or detainees at that facility. Our Ken Molestina described it as a 24/7 facility that operates, yes, normal business hours, but also in the overnight hours because it is constantly housing detainees.
All right, he was speaking on just, that ICE detention facilities, they sort of operate off the element of surprise. So that's why they do a lot of their work overnight and into the early morning hours. And we're also learning confirming that this, in fact, did happen around 6:40 or so earlier this morning. So again, we're going to get some more information. We've got a shot that's set up in a number of crews that are at the scene and hopefully waiting for this police presser from Dallas PD to start any moment now.
While we're waiting on that presser, if we can, I'd like to pull up the incidents that have happened in North Texas, specifically targeting ICE facilities. One of the situations occurred actually at this exact same ICE facility in Dallas earlier in August. There was also a facility targeted in Johnson County back in July, on July 4th. But a July 4th attack at the Prairieland detention facility centered around an injured police officer who was shot in the neck. This is how the scene was described to us. Attackers dressed in black military-style clothing opened fire outside of the Prairieland Detention Center in Alvarado on the evening of July 4th, southwest of Dallas, which federal prosecutors described as at least 11 people now being charged in connection with that attack. Then on August 25th was when there was a bomb threat outside of the same Dallas ICE office that we are now responding to a shooting at. That person was arrested, accused of making bomb threats outside of that Dallas field office. He claimed to have a detonator on his wrist and a bomb in his backpack. And after about an hour that day, the all clear was given, and that man was taken into custody. But you heard it from Vice President J.D. Vance earlier this morning in the post that he made on X. The, quote, obsessive attack on law enforcement, particularly ICE, must stop. He's praying for everyone hurt in this attack and their families. You also heard Secretary Kristi Noem also echoing that same idea. We don't know the motive yet, but, quote, we know that our ICE law enforcement is facing unprecedented violence against them. It must stop. Ken Molestina, you mentioned he has covered immigration for us for a number of years here at CBS News Texas. He is very well versed in the threats that these officers face, the threats that these detention facilities face, and he's been talking to some of his contacts within the Homeland Security Department as well as the ICE department, trying to figure out, okay, was this a targeted attack? Or is ICE, is Homeland Security now ramping up security at other facilities to potentially hedge off and prevent other similar style attacks?
Yeah, and if you're just now joining us earlier or so, about an hour or so, we actually had Dr. Alex Del Carmen on the phone. He is a criminology professor at Tarleton State University, and he was telling us that we have seen an increase in a lot of these incidents happening, specifically here in the state of Texas. And what's happening is tensions are rising, as we know, that a lot of these incidents are becoming a lot more common. There's a lot of scarcity, I should say. There's a lot of apprehension, and so within these communities that are being targeted right now, and so that is why we're seeing an increase in this activity. Now, still, again, we're waiting to hear a motive. We just don't know when that's going to be.
So Dallas Police, again, you see the microphones positioned there. We are awaiting a statement from Dallas Police on the latest on this investigation. We also know that Dallas Mayor Eric Johnson will be arriving on scene shortly, likely stuck in traffic like so many of our news crews have been, just trying to get to this scene. If you're just joining us, this is happening on 35E right near Empire Central, so just to the kind of southwest corner of Dallas Love Field. I just checked traffic in that area. 183 is stopped with traffic. 35E southbound is stopped with traffic. 35E northbound out of downtown Dallas is stopped with traffic. So there is not much of a flow of traffic through this whole entire area. So if you are trying to catch maybe a flight out of Dallas Love Field this morning, they are asking you to approach the airport from the northeast corner, because again, all of those roadways to the southeast corner or southwest corner are basically clogged with commuters and folks just trying to get through this area of town.
My conditions here also, as you can notably see, is just a little bit dark. Our First Alert weather team was tracking a number of storms that's supposed to be passing through the Metroplex too as well. So that obviously is playing a huge factor. You can see a lot of these officials, as well as our crews, are armored up with raincoats and rain gear and things like that, because, I mean, it's actively raining at this scene too as well.
Yeah, again, the headline this morning, time now is 9:14. 1 dead, 2 critically injured in a shooting at Dallas ICE facility. The shooter also also dead, Homeland Security officials confirming to CBS News. This is all occurring in the last few hours in downtown Dallas, just north of the medical district. Acting ICE director confirming to CNN the shooting initially this morning. Dallas police confirming some of the details, including that there was a shooter positioned on an adjacent building that targeted a Sallyport area of that government building. And then we're also confirming through multiple sources that this was not law enforcement officials that were shot and wounded, that it was likely other individuals that were on that property. Again, Todd Lyons, the acting ICE director, saying that it could be 3 different groups of people. It could be employees, it could be visitors, people going to visit detainees, or it could be detainees themselves.
Yeah, and unfortunately in these situations, 3 victims is more than enough. Unfortunately, the suspected shooter obviously, died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound and was unable to injure any others in this case, which in this case is a good thing.
Yeah, we also, if we can we switch to showing the TxDOT cam on 35E at Empire Central, because I think it paints a pretty good picture of that flow of traffic through the area. It is very sluggish right now. Over an hour delay reported in the north and southbound direction of 35E. Again, you see that active police presence on the service road of 35E right there at Empire Central. You're seeing not only the police presence, but also the other local officials there and the local media response as well. So not only is the service road shut down, but they've also got the on-ramps and off-ramps from Empire Central all the way up to Regal Row also shut down this morning. Again, we're hearing from not only DPD this morning on X, but also some local and state officials have been posting in reaction to the shooting at the Dallas ICE facility. I want to pull up the post from Tim O'Hare, who's the Tarrant County judge. Now, this shooting obviously happening in Dallas County, but Tim O'Hare also speaking to kind of the temperature surrounding ICE agents and ICE facilities that Secretary Kristi Noem posted about earlier this morning. He said, quote, "It shouldn't be unexpected with the violent political rhetoric that we see from so-called leaders and the constant bashing of law enforcement. This must stop. Praying for the victims and their families." That is, again, a post from County Judge Tim O'Hare in Tarrant County. He reposted Secretary Kristi Noem's post, who is the Secretary of Homeland Security for the United States.
And we also heard from ICE Director Todd Lyons. He obviously was speaking to CNN a little bit earlier, and this quote is pretty much what all officials are echoing this morning. His quote, "It's a sad time that we have to worry about violence against law enforcement. We have notably reported on a number of these incidents happening at ICE detention facilities just within the last month or 2.
Yeah, by the way, County Judge Clay Jenkins also posted on social this morning saying that, quote, "Please join me in prayer for the injured and their families from this morning's active shooter incident at the ICE facility in Dallas." That's, again, Clay Jenkins, a Dallas County judge, which would be Tim O'Hare's counterpart on the Dallas side. He said, quote, "Violence and terror is never the answer to anything." Again, if you're wondering what's happening on the right-hand side of your screen, that is media staging, getting prepared for the press conference, hopefully coming from Dallas police here in the next few minutes. It was originally scheduled for 9 o'clock. Our Lacey Beasley, who is at that scene, telling us that they are just waiting right now on the Dallas mayor to arrive on scene to also address the media.
And she's also told us that she's hoping to hear from, we're all hoping to hear from Police Chief Daniel Como. He's recently been on the job a few months or so now, and like we were just mentioning, a number of these incidents have happened at ICE detention facilities just within the last few months.
Yeah, so to give you a little perspective on Dallas Police Chief Daniel Como, he has been in law enforcement for 33 years. He is certainly no stranger to these types of situations, these violent crimes, but he is new to the Dallas Police Department, and in fact, he was just sworn in back in April, so this is one of his biggest scenes that he is going to be potentially helping to lead the helm of. His predecessor, we should mention, would be former Dallas Police Chief Eddie Garcia, who just last week, or in the last couple of weeks, took the helm of the Fort Worth Police Department, which is just on the west side of Dallas. So there is a large emergency response to the situation. I don't think Fort Worth Police would have responded to this scene, but certainly a situation where I would expect Chief Eddie Garcia to issue a statement, or to at least reach out to Daniel Como to provide some insight, to provide some sight.
But just under, Police Chief Daniel Como's watch, just a number of these incidents have in fact taken place. today. So just to walk you through just a little bit of the history of what has happened here in North Texas. Back on the night of July 4th, the Department of Justice actually says that there was an organized attack against officers. This was at the Prairieland Detention Center in Alvarado. A police officer from Alvarado was shot in the neck and wounded. More than a dozen people have been charged in that investigation. And then on August 25th, a 36-year-old Dallas man was arrested, accused of making bomb threats outside an ICE's Dallas field office. He claimed to have a detonator that was, in fact, placed on his wrist and a bomb inside of his backpack. After 1 hour on that day, the all clear was eventually given, and the man was taken into police custody.
Yeah, so you speak of the Alvarado incident at the Prairieland Detention Facility. Just this week on Monday, we were reporting that 6 women were arraigned on charges related to that Alvarado ICE attack at the Prairieland Detention Facility. Again, that situation was something that really captured our attention locally, but also the nation's attention, because it was an attack at a ICE facility, and then just a couple of weeks later we had.
All right, you've been listening to our colleagues at CBS News Texas as they continue to report on that deadly shooting at an ICE facility in Dallas, Texas. We are expecting a press conference with law enforcement officials to begin in just a few moments. But while we await that press conference, where we're hopefully going to learn more details about what we now understand to be a shooter who is now dead because of a self-inflicted gunshot wound, who has potentially killed one person at this facility, and others that might be potentially injured. We're going to get details on that when they get to that podium. But let's bring in CBS News Justice correspondent Scott McFarland, who is monitoring this situation from our D.C. newsroom, and Sam Vinograd, our CBS News national security correspondent, who's also been listening into the reporting being done by CBS Texas, and to add some details and some color on that. So first, Scott, to you. What's interesting to me is that we're already hearing from politicians, from elected officials, from cabinet officials, without really having all the details at hand, suggesting that there's some kind of concerted effort to attack law enforcement officials across this country. But we don't know what the details are. We don't know what the motives of this suspected shooter are. And perhaps we may never know because he's now dead. But what is your take on what we're seeing play out in front of us right now?
A lot of what we're hearing from sources is the open-ended question of how could this happen in this location? I mean, these federal buildings, federal offices, have a heavy regimen of protection and security inside and outside. No matter where you are in America, if you're in an immigration and customs enforcement office, you are at a place that has reinforced security. The Federal Protective Service, which has thousands of officers and contractors nationwide, have a very vibrant presence at buildings like this. They have an operation called Operation Shield, in which they try to be visible outside to deter people from trying to take a shot at one of these complexes. Plus, this building in particular in Dallas has been the subject to menacing before. There was a bomb threat there in late August. The person suspected of it has been detained and held for weeks now, giving an indication of the significance of that case. And it's been the site of protests over the summer amid concerns about allegations of substandard treatment or questionable treatment inside. So this place had a high profile. It already had interest in it from people who would do harm, at least in the one case in August. So I think the open-ended question here, Vlad, is how could it be vulnerable to this with all the federal protection used at federal buildings, especially ones with such a high profile?
Yeah, that's a great question. Let's bring in Sam Vinograd, our CBS News national security contributor. You've got some insight into this, Sam. What can you tell us?
Well, what I can tell you is that while there is oftentimes a physical security presence at ICE facilities itself, it's important to remember that the secure perimeter only extends so far. And in this case, we are hearing, and we'll wait to hear specific information from Dallas law enforcement, that a sniper was involved. And that means that the secure perimeter obviously didn't extend far enough, nor could it if a sniper was shooting from a long range. And that's why oftentimes the partnerships between federal, state, and local officials on threat collection and threat analysis to try to prevent, detect, and then mitigate, of course, any physical attacks on a facility is important. And what I mean by that, Vlad, is trying to pick up chatter about an individual who might be planning an attack well before that individual actually goes to a physical location. And again, that is a partnership between federal, state, and local officials. It's also important to note that at some of these facilities, as Scott outlined, we have government officials, government law enforcement providing security if it's at a government building. If it's at a contracted facility, private security is involved. In the aftermath of this event, it is likely that ICE facilities across the country are looking at whether and how to increase their physical security presence, and then to double down again on intelligence collection on any threats that might be out there.
And Scott, going back to what we were talking about earlier, which is the reaction that we've had so far from the Secretary of Homeland Security, even the Vice President of the United States has already weighed in. What has been, to your understanding, here's the tweet from Secretary Noem, details are still emerging, but we can confirm there were multiple injuries and fatalities. While we don't know a motive yet, we know that and I think she goes on to say that our law enforcement and our ICE federal agents have been targeted, and there's been unprecedented violence against them. So break this statement down for me from Secretary Noem.
Yeah, the Secretary giving as best an update as she can. I think the local law enforcement were probably the most immediate responders, along with the federal agents at the building itself. So that news conference is going to be weight-bearing when we hear from them shortly. I can tell you, though, just having covered the federal government for a couple decades here in Washington, this has been a chronic concern. The security of federal buildings, the vulnerability of federal buildings to the types of attacks you can think of and the types of attacks you don't think of. There was a congressional hearing, I think, last summer, in which they listed all of the breaches and attacks on federal complexes and try to dig into where are we not thinking, or what are we not thinking of, and where are we not protecting? Are we providing enough resources? Is there enough money? Do we have enough officers to do the type of protective duties we need them to do? This is going to raise those concerns further. But it's also, it reinforces a pretty important point here, Vlad. The federal government is not just in Washington. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of office complexes across the country. Every state, almost every county has a federal office somewhere in it. There's a lot to protect, and only so many people to protect it.
Yeah, indeed. All right, Scott McFarland, thank you, Scott, for jumping in front of the camera. Sam Vinograd, always great to have your expert analysis. We'll check in with you a little bit later. Once we get, as you mentioned, Scott, the details from those law enforcement officials who are on the ground. We are expecting a press conference at any moment there. You see a live picture coming into us from Dallas, Texas, where the mics have been set up for police and other officials to let us know exactly what has happened. But in the meantime, let's go back to CBS News Texas for the very latest.
Police Department. We're also hoping that we will hear from Police Chief Daniel Como. We've got a number of crews that are there at the scene, Lacey Beasley, as well as J.D. Miles, and then we've got as well Steve Pickett that is at Parkland Hospital too as well.
Yeah, if we can, I just noticed that the Fort Worth Police Department just posted on X, if we can pull up their account. Just a few moments ago, I was telling you that Chief Eddie Garcia took the helm of the Fort Worth Police Department just weeks ago, but he previously led the Dallas Police Department before Daniel Como took over. So I want to read, if we can, the post from the Fort Worth Police Department. It says, quote, "The violence that occurred in Dallas, Texas this morning is uncalled for. Moments like this are deeply disturbing as it creates more division in our community at a time when the focus needs to be on how we can come together. We continue to ask our community that if you see something, say something." That is, again, a post on X from the Fort Worth Police Department just moments ago.
And we've heard from officials all morning long, from local, state, on to federal levels, that have pretty much echoed the same sentiment, as that violence is, of course, at these facilities. It is deeply intolerable and obviously unnecessary too as well.
Yeah, Ken Molestina, I know, is on his way to the scene. Ken, if you can hear us, I know you've covered immigration deeply for CBS News and CBS Texas in recent years, specifically covering this new administration's targeted effort to deport illegal immigrants. What was the temperature that was currently at these ICE facilities and the history of ICE incidents in North Texas, and how does that play into how they're responding to this scene today?
Yeah, it's important to point out, Madison, that for some time now, ever since the new administration began sort of this aggressive approach to deporting immigrants who are in the country illegally, there has been heightened concern, not just for the safety of the ICE agents that are out in the field conducting this work, but also for the facilities that they work out of. We've obviously seen here in North Texas what happened down at the Prairie Land facility back in July. Now we have this situation that's unfolded here at the ICE field office in Dallas. So the concern has been there for a while. Folks, proponents of the work that ICE has been doing, as well as ICE officials themselves, have been warning about increased attacks, increased aggression towards ICE. That's when we began seeing the ICE agents covering their faces. There were reports of ICE agents being doxxed as well. And, of course, now what we're seeing is, events involving active shooters and threats at these facilities. So these are things that have been happening now for quite some time. And quite frankly, my sources within ICE tell me that a lot of times these things happen and they get foiled quickly and they never make the headline. These things never happen and they just kind of go about their business. But unfortunately, there are times like what we see today where these attacks are carried out. Now, it's important to point out right now, though, I was able to confirm this with an ICE source here in Dallas earlier this morning, that the event that we're talking about right now at the Dallas field office, no ICE agents were shot there. So I want to point that out because then we start to sort of narrow down who may have been shot, right? We know that at that hour of the morning, there are activities taking place there. We know that there are detainees that are being brought in. We know that there are other offices nearby. So you start thinking, well, who could it have been? Who could it have been that was shot? So we're working to confirm all of that. We know that there's information out there suggesting that it was a particular group that was shot, that were hurt, particular classification. But we, CBS News Texas, right now, as of this moment, I cannot confirm that for you because ICE agents tell me that they're working to finalize that and confirm that themselves. As soon as we get that information, we will, of course, get it to you. I know that there's a news conference that is expected to take place here at any moment, and I'm hoping we're going to get more clarification to those points. But again, Madison, your original question, you were talking about the temperature. You were talking about the rhetoric. Certainly right now, extremely heightened, unlike anything that we have seen before in this country. As far as aggression towards federal law enforcement. But again, we'll have to wait to see who, in fact, it was that was shot, because this is one of those conversations, one of those debates that, while obviously this is not okay under any circumstances whatsoever, depending on who the victims are, that conversation might pivot. It might change as well. But in either event, an unspeakable event has right now taken place. It's still unfolding. The investigators right now, what I'm being told from ICE, is they're in the very, very, very early stages of trying to figure out who this shooter was, their identity, trying to figure out any possible motives, and so on and so forth. So it's sort of the same playbook that we see in any sort of mass shooting or active shooter event in the minutes and in the early hours that immediately follow it. So clearly we have a lot of the same questions and a lot of the same concerns that many of the folks out in the community have. We're working to get all of those details. But the good news is that we are in contact with law enforcement directly, and we should be getting all that information relatively soon here.
And Ken, while I've got you on the phone, I've got one more point of context that I just want to hopefully allow you to provide some color to. Dallas Police Chief Daniel Como, he was just sworn in back in April of this year. Of course, he took over for Chief Eddie Garcia. This is one of the probably biggest scenes that he is going to be at the helm of for the Dallas Police Department so far in his tenure. He's certainly no stranger to law enforcement. We know he has a lengthy career with the DEA and with other law enforcement agencies. But speak to, you have a relationship with these people. You know how the Dallas Police Department works. You've been at these scenes before. What kind of reaction do you expect him to have if he does address media today?
So right now, just so you know, especially in these early moments following an event like this is an all-hands-on-deck effort that's taking place right now. Specifically as it pertains to Chief Cuomo, you mentioned his ties to the DEA. He was the acting, he was the supervisory field agent for the Houston office for the DEA. So this is a man that understands how to work with federal law enforcement hand in hand. This is somebody who, although he did not work for ICE, understands the workings of federal law enforcement and in their investigation. So what I'm expecting is that he is going to lean into that experience that he has. He maintains a very good working relationship with all federal partners right now because of his ties and because of his experience with federal law enforcement. So you can expect that Dallas police will work hand in hand every single step of the way. It should be a seamless approach into this investigation, and that's one of the reasons why, quite frankly, so many people are confident that we're going to start getting these details. We're going to start getting this information just as soon as possible here, and it's not going to take too long. I don't expect, because of the kind of collaboration that Chief Cuomo has with federal law enforcement. He knows who the players are on that side. They know who he is. They've worked with him in the past. And so at this point, like I said, when we're in the fact-finding portion of this investigation, this is the moment that we're going to see Chief Cuomo really step in and use all of those connections and lean into that experience and hopefully, bring resolution to this right now, because as you all can see, as you've been reporting all morning, it's still pretty much a chaotic scene, not just physically, but the sort of conversations that are taking place right now. Who is the shooter? Why did he do it? Who are the victims? Until those questions get answered, unfortunately, we live in a time right now where people start making up their own conclusions of these things. We ask that folks, are hesitant with that and that let law enforcement do what they got to do, because I do believe that we're going to start getting information. And, of course, we're asking all of these questions, too. So we're pressing the officials as well, Madison. We know what people are asking, and we're out here trying to be the vehicle to get those answers to those questions as well.
Right. And Ken, making conclusions is certainly not something that we ever want to do. I know that you have a lot of contacts there within the ICE, detention facility department and things like that. Just tell us, do they have any leads with what possibly the motive may have been in this particular case?
No, at this point, no. It's too early. I've talked to several folks within ICE this morning. There are plenty of assumptions that are being made, but in law enforcement, we know that part of the work that they do, they have to check out these I guess, rumors, if you will. And they go one by one. It's sort of a process of elimination that law enforcement goes through, and then they can provide factual details to the best of their knowledge. But right now, it's too soon to start coming up with any sort of factual explanation as to why this happened. Obviously, we've been speaking about the rhetoric and the climate that we're in right now, some of the tensions and some of the things that people are saying and things that they're standing for. So you can draw some assumptions right now as to potentially what that could be, but that's a long list of assumptions. We don't know right now. But again, we're asking those questions, and we want to know. The public wants to know, and we will. We will find out in due time.
Earlier we spoke with Dr. Alex Del Carmen. He was a criminology professor at Tarleton State University, and he was kind of walking Madison and I through.
All right, folks, you've been listening to our colleagues at CBS News Texas following that deadly shooting at a Dallas ICE facility. We are awaiting an update from law enforcement officials, and there you could hear the correspondents speaking with the anchors back in the studio about what we're expected to hear, including possible motive of the suspected shooter, who is now dead from a self-inflicted gunshot wound, and any injuries. We know that there has been at least one fatality and perhaps more. We're hoping to get those details once those law enforcement officials take to that podium there. In the meantime, let's take a quick break. Hopefully they won't step to that podium while we're in the break, but if they do, we'll come right back to you. Stick around.
What happens when reporters take you inside the story?
I've been asking for over a year and a half for access into this place, and this is the first time we're getting it.
You get the all-new CBS Evening News every weeknight.
This is CBS.
This is NCIS. you put on that uniform, you agree to protect the person next to you, no matter what.
Welcome to Australia.
Match made in heaven.
Watch out! Hey, hungry? Shout you a crock burger?
NCIS Sydney. All episodes now streaming on Paramount Plus. Returns CBS Full.
I'm Erin Moriarty of 48 Hours, and of all the cases I've covered, this is the one that troubles me most. Listen to Murder in the Orange Grove, the troubled case against Crosley Green, wherever you get your podcasts.
Be in the know, even when you're on the go, with the CBS Mornings podcast.
Some news you can use at the grocery store.
Better mornings start better days.
When you look good, feel good, you do good.
That's right.
Listen to CBS Mornings on the go on Apple Podcasts.
What happens when the world's best journalists come together?
Write a prescription for the healing of America.
We're retired and this is our paradise.
Now it's gone.
You get the stories of America every night. You get the all-new CBS Evening News every weeknight.
I can only describe it as evil.
Follow and listen to Train to Kill, The Dog Trainer, The Heiress, and The Bodyguard on the free Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcasts.
My job can get dangerous sometimes, but I'm very good at what I do. I know you're scared. I'm here to help.
They said you were the best.
Your daughter hired me to bring you home. I made her promise I would never stop looking.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
You hear about the reward?
Come here.
Okay.
Tracker. All episodes now streaming on Paramount Plus and returning CBS Fall.
All right, we've been reporting on that breaking news out of Texas where authorities have confirmed a deadly shooting in an ICE facility in Dallas. The authorities are expected to speak to the media at any moment. There you see a live picture into our newsroom where we expect that those law enforcement officials will take to those microphones and give us an update on what has happened exactly. But for the moment, while we monitor this situation, we're going to bring you up to speed on some other news, including Jimmy Kimmel. Back on late night, nearly a week after Disney suspended him over his remarks on the killing of Charlie Kirk. In his monologue, Kimmel did not apologize and took jabs at his critics, but he was still off the air in certain cities where dozens of ABC affiliates refused to run the show. CBS News correspondent Jonathan Vigliotti has more.
Greeted by chants and a lengthy standing ovation, it was a triumphant return for late-night host Jimmy Kimmel.
I'm happy to be here tonight with you.
An emotional Kimmel took the stage for the first time since his nearly week-long suspension following comments he made about the assassination of conservative activist Charlie Kirk.
That it was never my intention to make light of the murder of a young man.